they are not serious people that are running the country or the world or social media platforms, but they have serious power.
Yeah.
So there's still serious consequences to opposing them. So there's no logic that exists whatsoever. There's no standard to apply to where for instance, I think we have this up here. Tim Pool said that it's now against YouTube's guidelines that they've explicitly said that criticizing AOC is against their guidelines. Like they've paired up with a politician and said criticism of a publicly elected official is now like protected because this is hate speech. And you're going, well, you just for 4 years said that it was really good to spend all of your time and energy criticizing the people in power. That's all we did with Trump. That's all we dedicated millions of dollars and hours of time. And it's like, oh, and now that you guys are in power, we can't criticize you. Where we talked about last episode that YouTube's even like removed dislikes from the White House, YouTube. They're even considering removing the dislike button entirely at request of the White House.
Yes.
Like the most popular president in history isn't even popular on YouTube. And instead of just responding and being like, hey, maybe something's wrong here, they're responding by saying, let's change the rules again so that no one can visually see in real time how much of a con job this actual presidency is. It's fortified presidency, I should say.
And remember, AOC's not a normal politician. This isn't your secretary at your church, some old biddy just working away, and you shouldn't pick on her. She's a radical politician who has no interest in passing any bills. She's the biggest underachiever in political history. She's all about the media, and she's all about her radical agenda, and she is untouchable. But you're right. I talk about a divorce, and that's a man and a woman, but they both sort of have power. I mean, he tends to have the money. She tends to get the better ruling in the courts. But that's not the case. My analogy sort of falls apart here in the real world because the woman in the relationship, or whatever you want to say, is unbelievably powerful. How did the weak get so powerful? These people are not worthy. This is not Attila the Hun that's dominating our lives. It's a fat nerd.
The media, like you were saying, like that's why the rules don't make sense. He says here, this is a White House correspondent as well, is like far-right media figures are really latching onto this narrative that gun violence is only covered when shooters are white. This is a great example of how they are willing to lie while making this obviously untrue and racially charged claim. And I'm like, I tweeted him back because I think Twitter's funny. And I was like, yeah, that's not a right-wing talking point. You're a White House correspondent criticizing the right wing and you don't even know our talking points. Like, damn, I mean, I don't expect much from partisan hacks, but at least understand your opponents before striking. I was like, study up, bud. It's like, dude, the point that we make is that the media doesn't spend as much time talking about non-white shootings, and they also don't talk about the race of the shooter when it's non-white. Not that the media doesn't bring up shootings from non-white people. Like, that's not a talking point. And so the media has completely mischaracterized us. But the problem is when they say, oh, these are far-right figures, they've actually also included me in this. They quoted me later. They quoted Andy No, who's not even right-wing. He's not even conservative. He's like a liberal guy. And they mischaracterize us. And now there's nobody that's bold that can come online and talk and stand up to say that this is an untrue statement, because everyone that I think that has the nuts to actually do something about this and say something and speak up and correct the narrative is banned and deleted. And with the threshold changing, this is why I just sometimes like, where do we go from here? Because the threshold changing now is that like you can now just get banned because you subscribe to BlazeTV. Next year, if you're a subscriber to BlazeTV, you're gonna get banned from Facebook or whatever. And I mean, like I look at all this and I'm going, we literally live in a joke world. And I've always said, I think we're already in a soft civil war, but I don't see how the country is going to continue like this when you just disenfranchise 80 million people in the country and just pretend like they're all evil bigots and you erase them out of existence. I mean, is there anything that we can do? Like, I mean, realistically speaking, like, is there any way out of this? Because that's what a lot of people ask me all the time. Like, are we going to get out of this? Can we get back to where we were? Because I don't think so personally.
Well, you just have to keep fighting. I mean, in the short term, no, the divorce is here, but you're going to remarry and you're going to have a future. We're sort of like that. You know that famous painting of the American Revolution where they have the bandages on the head and the guy's playing his little flute, and then the other guy has the drums and they're all bloodied and broken, and they're persevering. That's who we are. We are the downtrodden. beaten. But, we make Blaze, we make Censored.tv, we keep coming up with new solutions to this problem. And I think it's very important that we keep humor on our side and we keep enjoying how ridiculous they are. And we keep mocking Joe Biden because you have to laugh at the ridiculousness of this situation. You have to enjoy it, because if you don't, then they win. And it does break you down. I mean, they attack your family, they attack your home, they attack your job, they attack your friends, your babysitter's boyfriend. I mean, they're absolute savages. They're like little demons. But you just have to keep swinging that sword. That's the only solution to it.
Yeah, I know. And and you even see this, that I think this is from Reason.com. A medical student questioned microaggressions and he got branded a threat. And then he got banished from campus. This is a real story. His name's Kiran Bhattacharya. I'm going to call a racist for butchering that name. Do you see that right there? Bhattacharya. I have no idea how to pronounce that. But you take your best.
Bhattacharya.
Bhattacharya is a student at the University of Virginia School of Medicine, and on the 25th of October, he attended a panel discussion on the subject of microaggressions. Dissatisfied with the definition of a microaggression offered by the presenter, Beverly Cowell Adams, an assistant dean, raised his hand. Within a few weeks, as a result of the fallout from his question about microaggressions, the administration had branded him a threat to the university and then banned him from campus, which I believe was medical school here, actually. So he's not like some dumb guy. He is now suing UVA for violating his First Amendment rights, and a judge recently ruled that his suit should proceed. And this brings up the fact is the only way to fight this going to be through the courts? And in that note, I mean, when we're talking about actually through the courts, do we have a lot of hope in the courts, as we saw that the Supreme Court wouldn't even take the case about the election because they didn't want to deal with the fallout of what could happen if the election got overturned. And they admitted that, right? This was like in their dissertation, like, we don't want to touch this. They didn't want to touch it. And it's like, I mean, this guy might be winning a small battle here, but I mean, is there a legal route to this? Because it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous that, there's in a situation where there's nothing that you've said as a person, Gavin, that is actually merited to the way that the media has disenfranchised, has pushed you out of the conversation, has tried to deplatform you, tried to get rid of you. But they did. They got away with it. And then these are vermin, evil people. And it's like, is there no justice in the land? Like, is there no ability to have Facebook be like, oh, by the way, your video violates our policies because the video was actually debunking the Blue Anon conspiracy theories. It was debunking their conspiracies about the right, and it gets deleted. So it's like they can fact check us and I can't fact check them. Isn't this some sort of violation of my rights as a person, where people can defame and just, fully destroy you? Like, if you Google any of one of our names, it makes us look like we are absolutely horrible people. In fact, they just recently put my name on some sort of international terrorist website thing that they were writing about my name. And I'm like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, can't we fight back?
Well, if you have the money, by all means. But I raised $250,000 to fight the SPLC. I think it was a success in that the president stepped down, Morris Dees was fired, Richard Cohen's gone, the head of legal quits, their top researcher quits, because they knew it would all come up in discovery. But they did a motion to dismiss. I dismissed their motion to dismiss. It's back in the judge's lap, and it's been there for 2 years now, just covered in cobwebs. Or the Halifax Five, the Proud Boys who questioned activists on Canada Day who were desecrating the flag, and they said, what are you guys doing? They all lost their jobs. We raised $5,000 for them to sue, and no lawyer would take the case because they didn't want to go near it. Ezra Levant and James O'Keefe, those guys, every time I check in on them, they have at least 50 cases going at once. And I'm not exaggerating. But, they have the money. That costs millions, and they have the backers who are excited about it. So litigation is a solution if you can afford it, but sometimes you can't. And I think we see with Chauvin, no matter what happens in that courtroom, the Chauvin better end up in prison or there's going to be riots. No matter what the footage shows, no matter where the knee was, none of that is relevant. And it's funny because lunatics like Chelsea Handler, is that her name? Yeah, Chelsea Handler is saying, why even have a trial? We have footage of the murder. And I feel like going, yeah, I agree with you. You idiots are going to burn down Minneapolis no matter what happens. So, I mean, if Chauvin is found innocent, no matter what the evidence, so why bother? I mean, we saw this with Rodney King. That guy was innocent. We saw this with Ahmaud Arbery. They didn't shoot at him. He grabbed the gun, and he was casing joints. They were right to be suspicious. Doesn't matter. The court of a public opinion. We're in mob rule right now.
A great philosopher once said that you can be 2 out of 3 things: liberal, smart, or honest, but you can't be all 3. At Slightly Offensive, we're smart and honest. And if you like this clip, head over to Slightly Offensive YouTube channel by clicking right here, where you can find new episodes of our show weekly. We're bringing you the topics, news stories, and angles that will have you saying, why the hell wasn't I subscribed sooner? Also, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to this channel too.